One wish, one dream. This took too long to prepare over the top. Oh man, I'm really going to do this, aren't I? Well, this is gonna be a long one, kids. Have a seat and get a snack. It's time for a new Tiger blog. Haven't done one of these for a while, and as you could probably tell from the title, I wanted to do something really fun. You may be wondering, wait, what? Why are we doing a blog? Why not do like a regular Trevor Tiger video, especially on this subject? Well, I actually got a new day job, and it eats a lot of my time up. So, we're talking like a 50-hour work week. So, trying to keep up my 2-week upload schedule on a 50-hour work week, that's not happening. Like, I need to find some strategy of, doing videos. I need to get used to it. So, until I can figure something out, that 2-week schedule is going straight to hell. But in the meantime, even though I can't keep up that schedule, I didn't want to keep you guys in the dark. So whatever I can do in the meantime, I think is going to be good enough in my eyes, and I only hope that this is something all of you can enjoy as well while I'm taking the time to work on bigger projects. For instance, the Banjo-Tooie retrospective. That should be the next video coming out. I don't know when that's coming, but just be on the lookout. You'll see it in your subscription feed soon enough. But anyway, since we're doing this blog here, I wanted to make something a little more relaxed on my side, but it would still be fun to talk about. So, on that subject, do I even need an intro to explain why One Piece is so gosh darn good? It may be the longest story you'll ever read in your life, but despite what certain misguided people say, I think it's worth reading the whole story from beginning to end. There may be over 950 chapters now, but it's still not too late to really hop on the bandwagon. The main reason is that it's an adventure manga. How it's read should be up to you. A chapter a day, a chapter a week, it doesn't matter, because whatever reading style you have, when certain moments hit in the story, they'll have the same effect on you regardless of how you read it. Now, this should go without saying, but talking about these favorite One Piece moments, this is my personal list and is going through the latest chapter of One Piece, and that is 952 right now. So if you're an anime watcher only, heads up, I am going to have a moment from the latest arc, the Wano arc, on here. I'll have another spoiler warning when that time comes, so just point that out there right now. There's going to be one big spoiler here if you don't want to watch it. Aside from that, I practically guarantee my favorite One Piece moments may not be your favorite moments, and even if they somehow are, I don't know the likelihood of that, they're not going to be in the same order of importance. At least one moment to you might be more important than a moment that I think of. I made this list by thinking the words One Piece and jotting down what came to mind. These moments I'm going to talk about will not be in any specific order, except for maybe, the top 5 or top 10. I don't know, not yet. Also, to make things fair, moments will not be fights as a whole. That's a topic for another day. These are specific events, so even though battles would be excluded, I can, however, mention the defeat of an enemy or an attack used, since those can have a lot of weight on their own merits. Also, I'm only going to use the canon material, so no filler or movies. Again, topic for another day. Those rules aside, let's just get started here. So coming in at number 25, again, no particular order for now. But number 25, I'm starting off this list and I can't even talk straight. Anyway, number 25, Ace's parents are revealed. Parenthood! I know, the best way to open a favorite One Piece moments list, right? Alright, but going serious here. when I first read the Marineford War arc, I was confused up to this moment. I mean, Ace was a commander for Whitebeard, sure, but did he really need to be locked up in the same section of Impel Down as Crocodile or the other members of the future Blackbeard crew? Was Whitebeard so dangerous to the Marines that any member of his crew captured would warrant a all-hands-on-deck prisoner execution? I mean, that's what the story set up, and there is some truth to that, but back then, I thought there was something more to this, and wouldn't you know it, there was. Turns out Goldie Roger had a child. This, again, freaked out the government and the Marines so much that they went on a child hunting purge. But one woman, Portgas de Rouge, kept her child inside her body for 20 months. Let me say that again, 20 months! Honestly, I'm tempted to have the birth itself be its own number slot because this is one of those backstories that can appeal to just about anyone. A mother taking all the pain and ultimately making the final sacrifice to protect her baby son. That's just really cool. But anyway, at this point, all of us fans were starting to put the pieces together. Ace was Goldie Roger's son. We would learn why he never mentioned this fact in the arc afterwards, or should I say, in the flashback afterwards. But this was a mind-blowing revelation to me when it first came out. Looking back at Ace and Roger nowadays and seeing how similar they look to each other, it's crazy I never put the pieces together or even questioned why they looked so similar back in the day. Regardless, this had a fantastic motherly story mixed with one of the biggest plot twists in the series yet. Bonus points for being so good it broke Khan's property. Okay, moving on to 24, Bon Clay's Sacrifice. So, staying close to the Marineford saga again, Impel Down is one of my favorite arcs in One Piece, and this closing moment adds a lot of love to the arc for me. Impel Down to me was all about making insane alliances to break out of a prison run by some of the most overpowered characters you could throw in there. I mean, you have like a sadist, an army of super strong jailers, awakened devil fruit users in the zone territory, so they never stay down even after being, in air quotes here, defeated. And then at the top of the food chain, there's Warden Magellan, whoever, who in my eyes is almost as overpowered as an admiral. I mean, to get past all of them and the prison's defenses, you would need like 2 warlords, the Son of Dragon, a commander of the Revolutionary Army, a former Rogers pirate, and an army of escaped prisoners. Oh, wait a second. Here's the thing though. When Luffy and his new alliance made their escape from the jail itself, they still had to get past the Gates of Justice. It's the only way in or out of the Marines' territory, and wouldn't you know it, the gates are closed. So once the gravity of their situation sets in, all hope is again lost, even though everyone just had like a taste of freedom. But at the twilight hour, Bon Clay, in one of his best uses of the Devil Fruit, poses as Magellan and makes sure that the gates open for his comrades, ensuring their final escape and last stab at Magellan's reputation. Clay then makes one last speech about freedom and mirrors his imprisonment at Alabasta, fighting an impossible battle, but through the power of the Okama Way, is able to go out in a blaze of glory. I got goosebumps when he got ready to fight Magellan, and I was sure he would have been slaughtered right there and then. Turns out Bon Clay's alive, though. I'm not too sure how I feel about that, since this moment alone was fantastic and seemed to have a natural end. I hope that the reasons on how he survived and now runs level 5.5 are good ones. We don't need another Pell. That's all I'm saying. I still hate that. But ignoring those complaints aside, this was, to borrow a line from Cinema Wins, a badass good guy moment. And speaking of badass, let's go right down to number 23. Luffy defeats Don Krieg. Now this is a strange moment to include on a best of list, but the reason I'm doing it is because this is a very personal memory for me. For those that have followed me when I did my top 25 One Piece villains list a couple years ago, might remember that Luffy fighting Don Krieg was the first time I ever read One Piece, let alone see it. Needless to say, this had an impact on me. Now this moment was digested through a Shonen Jump magazine, but I remember this curiosity I had while reading the conclusion of this showdown. There was an armored prick wearing an Iron Man suit, but then a boy who could stretch like Elastigirl was there, and he broke that armor, surprising everyone, myself included, and then corkscrewed his feet together so that he could slam Don Krieg one last time, securing the win. I was hooked, and I'm not afraid to say that I loved rereading that specific moment over and over again as a kid. I have a feeling that if you asked any other One Piece fan to make a personal list like this, their first introduction to the series would most likely be included. There isn't much else I can say about a moment like this. It was a really interesting battle that my kid mind digested, and then grew to love as the years went by. So yeah, that's number 23, but while we're on the subject of Luffy, number 22, Luffy rings the Golden Bell. So the Skypiea arc was like the Thor trilogy of One Piece for me. It can be pretty boring at the start, but so long as you stay on the ride, you are rewarded with nothing but greatness at the end. I could have easily put Enel anywhere on this list, and I love his character. I mean, his effortless takedown of the Straw Hats and their new friends made me go, holy shit, all the way up until Luffy entered the fray. It was like watching Frieza on Namek all over again. Now, I could let the Enel face make my list, since that was amazing in its own right, but Luffy beating Enel by ringing the Golden Bell and having his shadow envelop the sky in victory is so much better, because this wasn't just the defeat of an arc villain. It was the fulfillment of a promise to lost friends, proving that Cricket was right, the salvation of another group of people. All that mixed with these images, oh man, it still gets to me sometimes, both emotionally and in terms of hype. This payoff was easily worth the wait and doesn't need any more commentary from me. It's a very touching bookend for a very unique arc. Number 21, the Arlong Park Walk. Also known as Eiichiro Oda watched an Old West movie and said to himself, I can make my characters walk in a badass straight line too. This moment is kind of self-explanatory. After the realization that Arlong is one of the best villains in the story, a broken, defeated Nami finally drops her solo thief attitude and asks for help from Luffy, who at long last is recognized as both a friend and captain. In a symbol of trust, Luffy gives Nami his straw hat for safekeeping and marches to Arlong Park with Zoro, Sanji, and Usopp. This walk is so good, it's repeated in future arcs with more characters. I'm really hoping it comes back in Wano. What also makes this a personal favorite for me is the sense of unity. The Straw Hat crew is famous for acting like a dysfunctional family, but that's intentional, because even in their early days, when they all have a shared objective like getting justice for Nami, the sheep hits the fan. You can immediately tell that nothing can stop them now, and it's time for whoever gets in their way to pay the price. There's not even any dialogue shared between Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, or Usopp. Just a simple, let's go, and the message is clear. The march ends with Luffy literally breaking down the door. I don't like to call things epic all the time, but this right here, for one of the first times the Straw Hats truly unite into a single force, that is epic. Moving on to number 20, the Red Hawk. Time for New World moment, everyone, and it's from Fishman Island, my least favorite arc in the entire story so far. Yes, you heard me. I hate this arc with a fiery passion. But how fitting that is, because fire is exactly the theme of this moment. I think the best part about this moment is the timing. The setting is a battle after a time skip, so it's obvious that Luffy has to show a new move to prove that he's gotten stronger, instead of simply relying on Haki. The only issue is that Luffy is stuck in a bubble, and that any time he attacks, those blows lack the impact needed to put down his new foe, Hody Jones, down for the count. The latter is getting ready for the finishing move. Luffy knows that he needs to get a decisive blow in now, otherwise it's game over. Extending his fist back, it looks like he's going to do a Gum Gum Jet Pistol, but suddenly, his arm bursts into flames. Underwater. I'm not even going to touch that. But Luffy unleashes his new move, the Red Hawk, and as he throws the punch, it perfectly matches Ace's Fire Fist. This move was the moment I saw a version of Luffy that grew up. One that not only recognized his grief, but turned it into one of his most powerful moves yet that wasn't Gear 4, or heaven forbid if it happens, Gear 5. A beautiful and deadly homage to his late brother. It was everything I could ask for in a new and improved Luffy. I'm really hoping that Red Hawk gets more love in the future. Like, imagine a Red Hawk in Gear 4 mode. At that point, it'd be called, like, the Khan Meteor, and just decimates Kaido in his new form. Oh man, I need to stop before I go full hype. Let's talk about something just a teeny bit less hype. Number 19, the Throne Wars speech. Doflamingo has a knack for amazing speeches, doesn't he? The winner of the war will be justice. I'm a celestial dragon. But I think his best speech was when he announced the Throne Wars before Jack attacked. It was a dark and stormy night, literally. Doflamingo was chained from head to toe, all the while his one-time marine rival Suru watches over him. He goes over how he was the last thread holding the bounds of the world in check with his underground network. With him gone, Kaido is pissed and wants to wage war. The Marines are becoming the dominant force in the world, and the other Yonko, Blackbeard especially, are starting to get on the move. The throne for ruler of the world is vacant, and with a literal sea of chaos surrounding it, everyone is silently getting ready for a clash, the likes this world has never seen before. I can't do this scene justice even by recapping it. The setting is perfect. Doflamingo rattling his chains in excitement because he's ecstatic about seeing how this new war is going to play out. The rocking forth of the ship and the ever-increasing ferocity of the storm. The Marines on the boat getting on edge. It sets up this conflict for the rest of the story and gives us a guideline of what is to come. For the last Doflamingo moment in his prime villain spotlight, he went out with a war. Simple as that. Number 18, Garp's Tears with Ace. This is easily one of the most compelling and emotional moments in the series for me. Few other stories, not only in manga, but ever, can match the weight and turmoil of this moment right here. A war has broken out in Marineford over Ace. One of the Marines' greatest champions, Garp, is right next to the prisoner just in case. But there's one problem. Ace is Garp's adopted grandson after he protected the child from the government. Garp may be one of the toughest people in the entire One Piece universe, but he's always had a soft spot for his family, adopted or otherwise. He only wanted to make Luffy and Ace Marines because it's the orderly life he's lived and was rewarded for. The Marines are good. I'm on the side of the angels. You two are going to be led better lives so that you don't follow in your father's footsteps. Of course, that plan goes to hell. But even if they went down the path of piracy, Luffy and Ace are still considered family. So as Garp climbs the stairs and sits down next to Ace, he breaks down. Does he rescue his adopted grandson because Roger was right that a child shouldn't be killed because of bloodline superstition? Or does he follow the only organization of power and order that he's been a champion for decades? This ethical battle hurts Garp to the soul, and because he's hurting and dealing with a relatable issue, so are we, the audience. When I see this moment, I can't help but think if something like this happened to me. If I had a kid and they do something terrible, what would I do as a parent, as a father? Step in out of love, or let the court handle everything? This is one of the few moments in One Piece that can still get me to cry on command. It's a tragic no-win scenario that cuts me deep to the soul. Moments that are this organic easily deserve to be on my personal favorites list. though we should probably focus on something a little more happy now. Number 17, Kaido's introduction. Okay, so this was a very difficult decision. I was extremely tempted to put Big Mom's intro song for Whole Cake Island on this instead, because for Yonko introductions, it's the most unique, and I have her song on my iPod. I love listening to it. The visuals, the music, the lyrics, that ominous ending, it's fantastic. It would definitely take my Yonko intro spot if Kaido didn't still have the best intro in the story yet for me. It starts with Kid, Apu, and Hawkins forming an alliance to kill Shanks. Good luck with that. But anyway, this tells the audience that they're ready to kill a Yonko. Almost as an act of God, a Yonko falls out of the sky for them. It was Kaido. You see, Kaido, one of the most powerful characters in the story, is suicidal and wanted to die. That alone is fascinating. It kind of mirrors Saitama a little bit, looking for something of value but keeps hitting dead end after dead end. Anyway, Kaido goes to a sky island, looks down, and decides to jump. He falls and crashes into an island, making a perfect cartoon cutout of himself in the ground. A cutout crater, if you will. The supernovas on the scene are shocked and run outside. Suddenly, a huge arm rises out of the ground. Out comes Kaido, completely unfazed by the fall. The narration then describes Kaido's feats and how nothing and no one could kill him, let alone damage him. If it's one-on-one, Kaido will win, a sentence I think still holds true to this day and beyond. At this point, Kaido doesn't even recognize the supernovas literally under his nose, thus cleverly making it clear that one alliance does not simply go after the Yonko, or even dare consider it. In a single shout, Kaido sends a shockwave across the island and is ready to absolutely decimate anyone that's around him. This moment easily explains why Hawkins and Apu side with Kaido, and Kid pays for his arrogant thought of fighting an emperor of the sea. This one introduction is a legendary. It paints the picture of a character perfectly while still leaving room for the imagination. It's complete. For this act alone, and moving outside of personal feelings and until I'm proven wrong, I want to go on record saying that Kaido has the best introduction for a One Piece character and has one of the best character introductions in shonen history. I await your arguments, everyone. But in the meantime, let's move on to number 16, Crocodile's defeat. I bet no one saw this coming. It's only one of the most recognizable moments of the series I cannot talk today. But it's so recognizable as it serves as a tremendous payoff for Luffy's growth as a fighter, and this growth cements the fact that he's ready for the next stage of enemies, the warlords of the sea, and those who are even stronger than them. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Alabasta was the first big arc. The Straw Hats versus Crocodile's literal villains of the week were full of epic and heartfelt moments. Honestly, any of these fights could make my list, but I want to keep things open, and in true main character fashion, the best victory in this arc goes to the main character. Luffy fought against Crocodile twice before. The first time was a reckless charge that almost resulted in death. The second fight showed Luffy knowing the weakness of Crocodile but couldn't find a way to maintain the advantage. But during their final showdown, Luffy's blood alone was able to counter Crocodile's Logia abilities. Whether that logic would work nowadays in One Piece is a discussion for another time, but it's metal as hell. At the climax of their battle, Luffy sends Crocodile to the ceiling and with one last spin unleashes the Gum Gum Storm, set to freaking classical music. The animators knew, they freaking knew that Luffy's first warlord defeat deserved nothing but the highest praise both in visual and audio quality. This is one of the most triumphant moments in Luffy's story, and it leads to the end of the Alabasta arc, which is equally heartfelt. This is one of those moments that doesn't need a lot of explanation. One look at it and boom, you get it. And now I wrote myself into a corner because I don't know how to transition to the next slot after that. So, this is awkward. Number 15, Robin escapes Ohara. I could have put the Ohara Buster Call itself on this list, but I think it's part of Robin's backstory, so I'm including the whole thing. Robin was just your eager young mind ready to learn about the world, but everything changed when the Marines attacked. I feel like this is one of the most human moments on this list. You have a child who did nothing wrong, and her people are being slaughtered by the Marines simply for knowing too much. You don't just get your perspective of the carnage, you get Robin's as well. It's a little hard to watch. Thankfully, not everyone was on board with the attack. Saul, an old Marine, defected because of the Buster Call and gave his life to help Robin. This is immediately followed by Kuzan, who in a rare moment of mercy, makes a path for Robin to escape, setting her life up as a pirate, and explaining why she is who she is today. I hate to draw analogies like this, but this event to me was like going to the Holocaust Museum. I know, it's a strange analogy, but hear me out. It's a tragic, devastating moment, but at the same time, it's a moment that needed to be seen, to be understood. It's also one of those backstories that explains everything about a character. Again, weird analogy, but does anyone remember how in the second Bleach movie, it showed a legit reason as to why Captain Hitsugaya acted the way he did in the main story? Ohara's destruction does the same thing for Robin. I can't even describe this moment anymore. Story-wise, it's a fantastic yet tragic event that earns an emotional response from the viewer. And, to take a break from all the emotional views, let's go right on to number 14, the red poneglyphs. Now this isn't a complaint, but until the red or road poneglyphs were introduced, One Piece felt like it was on a random path to get to the end of the story. It felt like there was no direction other than sailing through the new world to find One Piece, but that alone can have so many branching paths and events, it can be mind-boggling to figure out where the story would go next. And while that's part of the charm of being an adventure manga, the story was in a place that needed to have a direction, to start tying up all the loose ends and setting up the final climax of this gigantic story, since it was well into its second half. Thanks to the Zao arc, though, we have our direction. Aside from learning about the nature of regular poneglyphs themselves, we also learn that to get to One Piece, you need to find all of the road poneglyphs. These are scattered and located at the most dangerous parts in the New World, mostly because they're guarded by the Yonko's Big Mom and Kaido. These poneglyphs and their territories are pretty much the reason no one has found One Piece yet because, well, you had to get past these two, and they themselves would likely cancel each other out if they try to steal each other's poneglyphs. This paints a clear road for the Straw Hats to reach the end, get past the Yonko, add in some interesting lore and character connections, and you have a bombshell of information the series hadn't had before. This was the ultimate calm before the storm moment. The do-over. Again, it was the ultimate calm before the storm moment, and I like to watch it again and again to feel that hype. It's kind of like watching, trying to think of like a really good analogy. Think of like in Dragon Ball Super, where Goku gets Frieza. It's before the main Tournament of Power arc, but the moment to set it up, Goku getting Frieza, was so good. And with the road poneglyphs, it feels like it's the same thing. Anyway, I think I need a water break. I've been talking for way too long now. So future me, just put an ad in here. Thank you very much. I should be back in 15 seconds, 30 seconds, depending on how long your ad is. All right, I'll see you soon. Okay, break time is over. Let's move on, right back on track to number 13, Vice Captain Zoro. I had an invisible rule set while making this list. Luffy would be the exception since a lot of these moments focus around him and that can't really be helped. He's the main character, duh. But if I talked about any of the other characters, then I wanted to have only their best moment for me be on this list. So that being said, and this being a Zoro moment, I think it's clear now that I don't have Zoro's sacrifice for Luffy on this list. I know you'll want to kill me, but to that I say, please pick up a ticket at the front desk and wait in line to kill me. That, and while this moment is just pure badass, I feel like Zoro putting his foot down in Water 7 is his best moment so far in the story, because it's not focused on his tough swordsman routine, it's focused on his role as the vice captain of the Straw Hats. In this moment, Luffy learns that Usopp regrets leaving the crew and wants to join again. Luffy, being Luffy, gets excited, and that gets Nami and Chopper happy too. But before Luffy leaves, Zoro stops him, stating that he better handle this situation as a captain. Our captain may be a reckless idiot, but he's still our captain. We support him because he brought us together and he's our best friend. That Zoro started an argument, but then in an epic moment that made me stunned in silence, Zoro of all people lays down the law of the land and gives us a dose of hard reality. If Luffy brings back Usopp, a deserter that insulted, fought, and left his captain, then Zoro would leave the crew, since hard choices and the code of the crew would be ruined and that would lead to disaster down the road. Leaving the crew is not an easy thing to do. It can't be treated as a, oh no, that was a mistake, you're coolly, Usopp, did I really just say that? But you get the picture, right? Usopp would need to recognize his selfish mistakes and apologize. Only then will Zoro accept Usopp back. And the crazy thing about all this, Nami and Chopper try to argue against Zoro, but Sanji, of all people, admit that Zoro is right in his decision. That's when you know how serious this all is. This is one of the only moments I can think of that shows the Straw Hats having a serious conversation like this that would result in consequences. There's no running gag, no silly moment to be found. It's a moment where Zoro proves why he's the first mate and not just another crew member. For that feat and recognition, I wanted to highlight this moment more than anything. And speaking of moments that deserve their spotlight, number 12, Corazone's death. Possibly one of the most effective deaths in One Piece yet. This moment is the climax for Law's flashback arc. It explains why Law hates Doflamingo with a vengeance, and how Law becomes the man who he is today, just like with Robin. When I first saw Corazone's Devil Fruit power, I thought it was dumb, and it was tied into the story because look at Corazone, he's clumsy and treated like the harmless pet in the Doflamingo gang. He can't do anything important with a Devil Fruit that makes things soundproof. Turns out that was all a setup to this devastating moment. Throughout the flashback arc, we see a man transform and slowly become a brother, or really father figure to Law. The lanes Corazon goes to for a dying child are downright tear-jerking, and it's all under a terrifying suspicion that his sadistic brother wants Law for himself. It all comes to a heel when Doflamingo finds out everything and shoots Corazon in a moment of silent rage. The shooting itself is a brutal way to go out. One Piece is known for being flashy in attacks and defeats, but a simple shooting by a gun somehow makes this moment all the more heart-stopping. Literally. With his last breath, Corazon makes sure that he mutes Law's cries with his Devil Fruit to ensure that the child would live. That part hurts too. Even in silence, you could tell how piercing Law's first screams would be. That is haunting. Smiling in peace, Corazon passes away. This felt like a writer setup that went perfectly, and those are extremely rare. Everything introduced about Corazon was used in his last moments, and because of that factor, made his death hit even harder. He may have lost his brother, but ultimately gained a better one in the process. Corazon went out on his terms and took his death head on, and it was the one time his clumsiness did not get in the way. And while we're keeping the awesome train going on here, number 11, Sanji's Diable Jambe. I briefly mentioned this in my Sanji Conundrum video, so I'm not going to go into that much detail, but the head chef was one of my favorite characters pre-time skip. And this moment where he unleashes his new technique on a stylish werewolf, yeah, that pretty much cemented my love for Sanji. This moment is one of my favorites because A, it's a fire move. Those are always pretty sick. B, Sanji shows that he can still stay in the same league as Zoro and Luffy. C, it shows Sanji getting serious and dropping his gentleman act. That's always a win for Goosebumps alone. And D, the flames he makes symbolize his passion for saving Robin and his friends. I also like how this move actually made sense, kind of. To spin so fast that he makes the heat from the friction cover his legs, unleashing nothing but a fiery barrage. That's the kind of progression or power-up I love. It expands the power or skill someone has in a creative fashion, rather than just popping out of nowhere for the sake of a power-up. Falling down a large staircase and teaching a lesson of humility to one of CP9's most cocky members in fiery, devastating style, I will watch that any day, thank you very much. Sanji's new rise of strength is easily one of my favorite moments from this character, and it's one of those attacks that I love watching over and over again. Okay, so for this next moment, it's going over that Wano spoiler I mentioned at the very start of this video. So, and more specifically, it covers chapter 923. So if you're an anime watcher only, or if you just haven't read the manga up to that point yet, I urge you, I beg you, please skip this slot and go to this time in this video. It's one of those moments that I think should be discovered on your own time. So with that out of the way, 3, 2, 1, okay, we're going on. Number 10, Kaido defeats Luffy. Alright, top 10 everyone, and it's the most recent event happened in the story as of this list. I know I said I wouldn't include a versus match because that's a list for another time, but the thing is, to me, Luffy, using air quotes again here, versus Kaido isn't even a real fight. It's more like a fit of anger that ends in iconic shonen fashion. Kaido just unleashed his flame breath, destroying the ancient castle the Straw Hat crew was hiding in. And, to make matters worse, Master Speed was severely injured by the Dragon Emperor himself, and it's implied that Tama was murdered as well. So like I said before, in a fit of rage, Luffy rushes Kaido and doesn't hold back for an instant. He uses an elephant gun, followed by an elephant Gatling barrage, and to end it all, Luffy immediately goes Gear 4 and unleashes another barrage in the form of Con Organ. What does it do? Absolutely nothing. Kaido's introduction, where it shows that no one can beat him one-on-one, it turned out to be true after all. And what was the only accomplishment Luffy made in this so-called battle? Well, his attacks made Kaido sober. The unfazed Yonko stands up and in an instant takes down Luffy with a single swing. I talked about this moment a little more in my How to Fight Kaido video, but it's clear that Luffy is nowhere near ready for a one-on-one Yonko fight. I mean, think about it. Luffy just, using air quotes again, beat Katakuri, but their fight lasted hours and Luffy's Gear 4 was the form to win it at the end. So all that stamina, added with all the damage Katakuri dealt, meant less than nothing to Kaido's one swing. It's a scary realization when all the foreshadowing by the narrator and Big Mom turns out to be true. This was a really epic moment and it set the stage for the final boss of the Wano arc. And despite this moment being the shortest on this list, its impact on me can never be underestimated. Is it obvious that Kaido is my favorite Yonko yet? Because this moment pretty much sealed the deal. Coming in at number 9, Whitebeard's death. I had a feeling you all knew that there would be a Whitebeard moment on here. The man is the walk-in definition of badass. Ironically though, it's his last moment. That doesn't mean it doesn't exude greatness though. This moment right here is the perfect conclusion for a legendary character. He was a legendary figure gracing the Battle of Marineford, a legendary warrior capable of giving everyone a run for their money, a legendary father when the times demanded it, and at the end had a legendary death. As Blackbeard and his new crew rain down death, Whitebeard remembers a conversation with Roger and a time from his youth. All this man ever wanted was family, and at the end, he had an entire crew full of it. With his last dying words, Whitebeard reignites the pirate era by saying the One Piece is in fact real. It didn't matter if the Marines won now, piracy will still have its momentum thanks to this moment. As he dies, Whitebeard remains on his goddamn feet, never budging or showing any sign of falling. Even though he's damaged beyond comprehension on the front of his body, there isn't a single scar on his back. He faced every hurdle. Man, I might just hurl just by saying that sentence alone. But he faced every hurdle head on as the legend he is, and that is Whitebeard in one word: legend. Oda did everything in his power to make sure that this word and Whitebeard were one in the same, even in death. The impact, the resolution of Whitebeard's morality, and the continuing badass nature of this old monster, Whitebeard stands proud and will always be that way until the end of goddamn time. And speaking of badass and legendary and inspirational whatever, number 8, Blackbeard's speech. People's dreams will never die. Those are words that I thought I'd never hear from a series villain, especially if it's Marshall D. Teach Blackbeard. This moment requires a little context. When Luffy meets Blackbeard, it's played off as a comical moment, but it also shows us how much they have in common, as well as their core differences. And the subject is about pie. It's subtle, but looking back on that, it was miraculously a great way to show off the interaction between the series hero and the series villain. Afterwards, Zoro and Luffy have their scuffle with Bellamy in the bar, but it's afterwards where things get really good. Or bad, considering it's Blackbeard. Anyway, not only does he applaud Luffy and Zoro, but he then makes a speech that illustrates himself as an optimist, a man that believes in dreams. Most villains in One Piece just want to rule the world or destroy something, destroy someone, whatever. But with Blackbeard, his motivations are a lot more blurred. I guess that's the right word, I don't know. But later on, we find out there's a quite literal dark side to his character, but that core belief in dreams is still there, making him a lot more complex than people think. I'd like to think of Blackbeard as, like, Silver from the Treasure Island or Treasure Planet stories. He can be sympathetic and knows how to have a good time, but when it comes to treasure, he's the one man you don't want to cross. This moment, this speech, takes the series villain in a new direction and creates a great parallel to Luffy. That's practically all this moment is, setting the groundwork and boundaries to what may be the most important characters in this story. From character, relationships, to just story structure and nature, this moment is easily one of my favorites. I mean, it's number 8 for God's sake. Anyway, number 7. The Straw Hats get separated. Yeah, I bet all of you saw this coming. And I guess from here on out, the choices might be a bit more predictable. That's not to devalue these moments at all. They're praised across the board for a reason. So let's continue the stride of greatness with something that a lot of fans claim is one of the most unexpected moments in shonen history. And yeah, I agree with them. The third act of the Sabaody arc paints a dark picture for us and the Straw Hats. Compared to the last couple warlords they have to face and the Marine Admirals, they are hopelessly outclassed and outgunned in every aspect. What makes this part even more crushing is that in the arc before, Gecko Moria predicted this would happen, that the Straw Hat crew had a nice lucky wind and they don't know how crushing reality will be when they reach the next stage. Well, as it turned out, they weren't even ready to get through the goddamn door of the New World. The only option is to retreat and get away from Kuma, the Pacifistas, did I say that right? The Pacifistas, and Kizaru. It's the first time where Luffy acts out of fear and screams to run away. He's ran away before, but the situation was always in his control. Here, it isn't. But in comes Kuma, who with a simple touch sends each of the Straw Hats away one by one, making each vanishing all the more crushing to Luffy. We find out shortly after that Kuma was protecting them and sent the Straw Hats to places that could help them get stronger, but even with that knowledge now, it doesn't impact the emotional weight this moment has. One Piece has pulled off unexpected moments really well, so this easily could have been the end of the story. It acts like it too. And with each try by Luffy to save his friends and beat Kuma, he gets more flustered and desperate until only he remains. On his knees in tears, crushed by the weight of his failure, Kuma takes out Luffy with no roar or even a whimper, only silent tears. So yeah, I don't think it's a surprise that this made my favorites list, or anyone's list for that matter. It's one of the most unique moments a story like this could have. We've seen heroes defeated before. Hell, we just talked about one not too long ago. But most don't compare to this moment where there's a sense of finality to it. Some people actually call this the end of part 1 rather than, well, the end of part 1 where Luffy goes ahead and trains with Rayleigh. But honestly, I can see the logic where people think that when Kuma separates the Straw Hats, that's part 1 right there. And I'm fine with that. It makes sense. It's the dark before the dawn and easily one of the best emotional strains this story has ever pulled off. So, while we're on the subject of emotional strains, number 6, Luke's death speech. This is one of those moments that can still get to me every time I rewatch or reread it. Chopper's race into Drum Castle to save his only real friend and father figure from a trap King Wapol set up. The trap is simple. We need a doctor. Come to the castle. Luke, of course, takes off and is surrounded with no possible escape. And even though all of us knew what was coming, the doctor pulls off one last surprise, showing relief that no one is actually sick. He then proceeds to give what I think is the best speech in One Piece, commenting on the nature of death and how someone is only gone if they are forgotten. And even if one memory can be found, then that individual will never die. It's a powerful moment, and it's a lesson that can be applied to life itself. A lot of manga life lessons are either spelled out or they're far too subtle to pick up. Luke's speech on death can be understood by anyone and should be spread. It's a message that transcends the story itself and is tied to a moment that is still haunting and yet optimistic at the same time. I highly recommend to rewatch this scene, dub, sub, whatever, I don't care. It's hard to talk about speeches on this list and bring something new or entertaining to the table, especially if the topic is about death. But my words won't do this moment justice. Go watch it again. I hope the impact has stayed with you like it has for me. To wrap it up with one last drink, Luke goes to the great beyond in great tragedy, but thanks to this moment, he will never be truly gone, which makes Luffy posing with the flag at the end of this arc all the more stronger. And speaking of strength, number 5, the Jet Gatling Gun. Good news, everyone! This is the last exclusive Luffy moment. Kind of. You'll see what I mean later. What do I even need to say about this moment or attack that hasn't been said already? It's the payoff of one of the best arcs in the series. It's the last burst of energy Luffy has against Lucci and uses every ounce of said energy to secure the win. It's one of the most hype moments because Luffy earned a win against someone who is tougher and even more resilient than him. And of course, it's one of the most satisfying moments since this was the part where Robin realized she was finally free from the wrath of the government. There is a lot of energy in this scene. Some people are mad that Luffy found his second win because he thought about his friends and friendship is true power, but I feel like they're missing the point from Luffy's perspective. Luffy has to win at all costs. If he doesn't, all his friends will die. He lost Usopp, almost lost Robin. He can't afford to lose anyone else in his crew. That's for a later arc. The attack itself is a beauty to behold. It's the one time where Lucci couldn't prepare his Tekkai or Iron Body in time, so he faced the full force of a high-speed barrage of punches that lasted for quite a while. In fact, please correct me if I get this wrong, but I think it's the longest barrage Luffy throws just to make sure Lucci stays down. Like I said before, this one attack has the weight and payoff of an entire arc resting on it, and while it wouldn't be the first or last time that's happened, I think this moment perfected that style. It's no surprise that this moment is considered one of the series' best. Now, there isn't going to be an easy transition for this one, but number 4, the death of Ace. I know I said in the intro that I wouldn't start personally ranking these until like the top 10 or 5, but I feel like for the rest of this list, starting here, these moments are the best of the best to me. I would dare say that any moment from here on out could be number 1 if I gave this list even more thought. So with that out of the way, let's go to something you all probably predicted I put on here. This just might be the hardest, best moment to go over. I mean, it's not like the Straw Hat Crew separation because that event was temporary. This moment, though, is permanent. It's a moment that many consider to be the most devastating, but that's also why I think it's one of the best moments. Ever since the news of Ace's capture was made public, fans speculated how he was going to be rescued. Then Impel Down came and Luffy missed his window. That's okay though, he now has an army of prisoners ready to charge Marineford. Then that arc came. There were some close calls, but after Luffy had his main character moment to defy all expectations, Ace was finally free! This should have been the moment in the arc where after chapter upon chapter of bloody combat, things should have finally turned for the better. In fact, that's how Oda paints the scene, showing Luffy and Ace's teamwork, and our heroes getting an escape route, thanks to the self-sacrifice old man moment from Whitebeard, but this is where things go from hopeful to catastrophic. Akainu calls out Whitebeard and taunts Ace for their crew's weakness. Ace fights Akainu but is easily outmatched. This made me do a double take. Ace was able to fend off Aokiji. Maybe he can do the same against Akainu. That would never happen though. Magma will always beat regular fire, and if anything was learned during this arc, it's that Akainu will never fall so easily. Did I say that right? Kanu. Magma boy. Whatever, let's move on. So when Luffy was desperate to get Ace's Vivre card and Akainu was about to end everything, the Fire Fist saved his little brother at the last moment. This shot right here, or JPEG image, whatever I have on the screen, this right here still burns fresh in the memory of every One Piece fan. This was the sign that Oda didn't have to resort to a basic story structure. You could have a story about failure despite everything pointing towards success. You could have that failure turn into another speech about how life is worth living, and it's from the dying mouth of a man who didn't want to live, who wasn't confident in his value as a person. That right there, especially in today's society where depression is larger than ever, can hit especially hard. The death of Ace, in my eyes, is one of the most important moments in not only One Piece, but shonen history. I dare put this on the same level as the "I am your father" quote from Star Wars. I think it's that important. It's a moment that shocked everyone and set the stage for Oda's next half of his story. And even though this moment can get the tears rolling, it ends on a smile from a big brother who was able to find value in his life, even if it cost him everything. And you know what? I'll admit, number 4 is a bit of a downer. Maybe number 3 will be more lighthearted. Number 3, Kairos' backstory, god damn it. Okay, this might be considered a hot take, but I think Kairos has the best backstory in One Piece. What makes his character arc so goddamn special to me is the humanity Kairos has along with a heavy dose of tragedy. This is material where main characters are usually born from. Anyway, Kairos was a brutal fighter in his young days. He killed out of vengeance for a dead friend and wanted King Riku's head even more than Doflamingo at the time. Riku decided that the only way for Kairos to progress in life was in the Colosseum, along with a promise. Win 100 battles and you will earn your freedom. Kairos won 3,000, and his last opponent was none other than King Riku himself. Thanks to his merit as a combatant, Kairos was chosen to be the captain of the Dressrosa army. It was through here where he would first meet Scarlet, Riku's daughter. Even though she did not care for the gladiator at all, that changed when she was saved from pirates. The romance between The romance between Kairos and Scarlet, it felt genuine, and having Kairos be scared about his blood-stained hands touching his daughter is heartbreaking. But all was well. Kairos went from killer in the slums to respected man of the people to a father that could live with those who could actually love him back. Again, main character potential right there. But then Doflamingo came. On the night he led Dressrosa to ruin, Kairos decided to fight one last time. That process, however, led to not only the loss of his leg, but also the loss of his human body to sugar. Now that Kairos is a toy, everyone forgot about him. That adds like another layer of tragedy, because he even wished for that when he was younger. So the life and love Kairos earned vanished in a literal instant. The final nail in the coffin was when Diamante killed Scarlet. When Kairos went to comfort his wife, she didn't go through the cliche of regaining her memories. Oh, no. Oda made sure to be consistent and have Scarlet die without remembering anything about the man she fell in love with while she was in his plastic hands. Add that on top of Kairos not being able to physically feel Scarlet at her literal last moment, and God damn! What do I say? That just hurts. I mean, it's so good, but it hurts at the same time. We don't even get a ghost scene or anything. I mean, it's kinda obvious that the world of One Piece has the concept of souls as us humans do, but much like us, we don't know if One Piece has like a confirmed afterlife. So this moment could have a home run of sadness if after all of this, Scarlet never learned the truth in the great beyond. She didn't deserve any of this, and it's even more painful when you realize that this all happened because Kairos chose to be a hero for once in his life. I could go on about how Kairos as a toy interacts with Rebecca, but the moment for me ends when Kairos holds Scarlet in his arms. Just like with Ace, this is tragedy while adding a life lesson done perfectly. Kairos was one of the most fascinating characters who deserved that retirement after Dressrosa. The only compensation was that Kairos and Rebecca remembered Scarlet by the end, so after that recap, is it any wonder that this is one of my favorite stories in, well, the One Piece story? It's one of those stories where I think it doesn't have like any clear faults and could be on the level of timeless. I hope I'm not the only one that remembers and loved Kairos' backstory, because if I am, then I'm gonna be feeling like his toy version for the rest of my days. Thankfully though, the penultimate moment on this list is something that can't easily be forgotten. Number 2, Im-sama. To be perfectly honest, just about any moment from the Reverie mini-arc could have made this list. My personal favorite though, as you can tell, is the end-all plot twist that pretty much shattered everyone's understanding of the One Piece world. I'll go so far as to call this the equivalent of, Raditz meeting Goku, and the latter learning that he's actually an alien. So in One Piece, and in its Reverie arc, it was heavily shown and talked about that there are no sole rulers of everything in the government or its forces. The Marines may have its fleet admiral and commander-in-chief, but they have to work with their 3 admirals, as well as to the wishes of the Celestial Dragons. The Celestial Dragons are a group. They are, at this time, just another group that works off of their own interests and desires. Their representatives, as well as what the world knows as their rulers, are the Gorosei. They are a group as well. Oda, for over 900 chapters, has painted a picture to show that there's no individual running the show, only to pull out this character who was only shown briefly in a few chapters before. Let's set the stage. The Gorosei talk about the Reverie, and how King Cobra is starting to know too much about the Gorosei and their operations. They enter the Chamber of the Empty Throne, another symbolism of group strength, because no one ever sits on the throne. Its power is shared by the 20 kingdoms that attend the Reverie, which begs the question, why the Gorosei came into this room? Well, here's where things get crazy. This figure, who we've only seen in a few panels before, ascends the staircase to the throne. It then approaches and sits on it. As we realize what's happening, the moment is sold when we see the Gorosei kneel before the throne and declare this figure as Im-sama, the ruler of the world. This is like if Darkseid kneeled before someone in private. Who is the true king of everything, and why remain secret? Nonetheless, this moment shattered everyone's expectations and opened the door to so many theories. Do you guys remember the One Piece theorist surge a few years ago? Well, it's back again thanks to this one single moment. There's not much else to say about this moment, honestly. I mean, it's only like a minute long, but the impact as well as the implications that are to come from this are through the goddamn roof. Whatever happens next, I hope Oda can live up to the hype he made from this one shot alone, cause honestly, this might be hard to top after the fanbase reaction. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Number 1, Brook joins the crew, aka Binks Sake. Alright, so there is a lot to unpack here. Brook is one of my favorite characters in One Piece, and his joining of the crew at the end of Thriller Bark propelled him to my now favorite character in the series. And that still holds up today. He's my favorite, and I doubt that's going to change. I mentioned this briefly in my Whole Cake Island review, but I'm from a family of musicians, so to read and watch a character like Brook means a lot to me. I'm getting ahead of myself though, let's do a recap. So after Gecko Moria is beaten and after Zoro saves everyone from Kuma, a celebration is had. It's here where we hear the full version of Binks Sake, a now favorite song of the fandom, and a nice theme for the pirates everywhere in the One Piece world. Though of course it comes with a price. We get a flashback that shows Brook's old crew, the Rumbar Pirates, slowly dying. So what do? Go out with smiles and have one last song. This moment is absolutely crushing and yet warm at the same time. These pirates went out on their own terms, but wait, it gets better. Or more tragic, I should say. The song ends with Brook's crew dropping to their last members, and then Brook notates that it came down to a duet, and then finally, a solo. As a musician, that just hurts. A lot. But it does get better, for real this time. The moment continues as everyone has their party as Brook continues playing. Thanks to Luffy, Brook learns that Laboon, an old friend of his, is still waiting for him at the Twin Capes. Even after 50 years, he's waiting for the Rumbar Pirates to return. This makes Brook overflow with emotions. The fact that some shred of his past is still holding out for him causes him to sob in joy. And then, to match Robin's declaration at Enies lobby, Brook shouts that he's so glad to be alive. The moment ends as Brook is quickly and without hesitation part of the Straw Hat crew now. This is my favorite moment in the entire story because it's what One Piece is to me. A pirate's tale that has its ups and downs, but even though it has its crazy environment with devil fruits and character personalities, it's all held together by heart and dedication. The same kind of heart and dedication that Oda puts into his characters and the emotional payoffs he strives to make every single arc. This moment was built up since Laboon was introduced to the story, and to have a callback like this in Thriller Bark and be Brook's new motivation in life is downright inspiring. The literal music, the setting, the character interactions, what this does for the story, it's perfect to me. And it's not just because it's one of those few times I openly cried seeing this for the first time. I'm not sure this moment can ever be taught by the end of One Piece, but if it can't, I'm not complaining. This is what One Piece should always be remembered for. Not the action or the insane arcs or the villains. It's the characters having deep moments of humanity that transcend the limitations of a shonen story. And after all that, that's it for my favorite moments. Let me know if you want to see more favorites like this in the future. This was a lot of fun to make, and don't be afraid to ask for other series too, like if I did oh joy, I'm messing up at the end. Anyway, don't be afraid to ask if you want to see me do this kind of list again for Naruto or Bleach or even JoJo. even though that last one is practically guaranteed. I love that show, story, whatever you want to call it. I love JoJo so much. But regardless, thank you all for sticking around. Thank you all so much for watching in the first place, and I will see you legends next time. Take care.